Walter White and Jimmy McGill are usually talked about as the same story. Good man, bad choices, loses everything. But the way they actually destroy the people around them, that is completely different. And I don't think enough people have sat with that. Walt pulls people into his world and destroys them there. Jimmy gets inside other people's worlds and makes them fall apart from within. Today, we will discuss this in this video. When Walt starts cooking, he's at the very bottom. No power, no reputation, nothing. So he builds something. And as that something grows, it starts pulling people in. Jesse is like the clearest example. Jesse was a small time dealer going nowhere, not really hurting anyone around him in any significant way. Walt recruits him, brings him into the operation, and from that point, everything Walt does to Jesse happens inside that world Walt created. Jane dies because she got close to someone inside Walt's orbit. Andrea, Brock, every loss Jesse takes happens because he's stuck in a world Walt built and Walt controls. Walt doesn't go to Jesse's life and burn it down. He creates a gravity and everything Jesse loves eventually gets pulled in and consumed. Same thing with Skylar. She doesn't walk into the drug trade. Walt expands until she's inside it, whether she wants to be or not. Her house, her car wash, her sister's husband. Walt's world just keeps growing until it swallows her life completely. And Hank, a DEA agent whose entire career is built around stopping people like Walt. Walt never has to go after Hank directly. He just keeps existing, keeps growing, and eventually Hank's own investigation, his own obsession, pulls him into a direct collision with Walt's world. Hank dies in a desert in the middle of Walt's empire. That's where Walt's victim end up, inside something Walt built. Jimmy McGill works completely differently. He doesn't have an empire, he doesn't build a world and pull people into it. He finds worlds that already exist and gets inside them. Chuck McGill built one of the best law firms in Albuquerque. His entire identity is the law. That word, HHM, his reputation, his standing, is the most solid thing in his life. Jimmy never drags Chuck into anything criminal. Instead, he operates within Chuck's world and quietly takes it apart. He forges documents inside the legal system Chuck built his life around. He engineers a breakdown in a courtroom, which is Chuck's courtroom, the place where Chuck was supposed to be untouchable. Chuck doesn't die in a lab or a back alley. He dies alone in his own house, having burnt it down himself. Jimmy never took him anywhere. He just made the place Chuck already lived unlivable. Howard is the one that really gets to me though. Howard is genuinely trying to be a good person. He's in therapy. He reaches out to Jimmy multiple times, genuinely, and Jimmy responds by systematically destroying his reputation from the outside, using Howard's own professional world against him. Fake substances in his locker planted inside the legal community Howard lives in, hired actors impersonating him himself inside the social circles Howard moves in. Howard never goes near anything criminal. He stays exactly where he's always been, in his suit at a firm trying to do his job, and that world just crumbles around him while he's still standing in it. And then he gets shot in Jimmy's apartment by a cartel killer who had nothing to do with Howard at all. He didn't enter the underworld found him because Jimmy had quietly connected those two worlds without Howard ever knowing. Kim is the most complicated one because she makes her own choices, but what Jimmy does to her is the same pattern. He doesn't take her somewhere dark. He makes the world she's already in, which is the law, structure, doing things properly, feel hollow. Every time they bend a rule and get away with it, the system she believed in looks a little more like a joke. He doesn't corrupt her by dragging her down. He makes staying where she is feel pointless. She eventually walks away from law entirely, not because she was pulled into something, because Jimmy made what she had feel not worth keeping. Breaking Bad is about Empire, a man who built something and how everyone around him gets consumed by it. Better Call Saul is about institutions, the law, the professional ethics, the structures people build their lives around, and Jimmy is a quiet argument that those structures are more fragile than they look. One person, patient enough, flexible enough about the rules, can hollow them out completely. Walt is a flood. He rises and people drown in him. Jimmy is something slower. He gets in and things collapse from the inside. Neither of them set out to do it that way. Walt thought he was protecting people. Jimmy never stopped believing he was just surviving. The destruction is almost a byproduct, which is maybe the most unsettling part of both shows. And in the end, Jimmy is the only one who actually confesses fully to everything. Walt dies on his own terms, in his own empire, satisfied. Jimmy tears down the last thing he had left, himself. Maybe that's the real difference between them. Thank you for watching. Let me know what do you think about this comparison in the comments below. See you in the next one.